Terran Lab Show.
The Terran Lab Show.
The Terran Lab Show.
The Terran Lab Show.
It's the Terran Lab Show.
It's the Terran Lab Show.
Where the topic of discussion is you.
So let's go.
Hello everyone, how are you? How are you? This is the Terran Lamp Show. In each episode, we are going to dive into the incredible stories of those around us making a difference in our communities. We have teamed up with Chicago News Weekly to bring you the health and wellness journeys of those around us shaping our world. Thank you so much for joining me. I am Terran Lamp, and this is the Terran Lamp Show. And today, we have my friend, Mr. John Figel. John has been a resident of Oak Park for 37 years and been married to his wife, Debbie, for 37 years as well. Together, they have raised 4 adult children. Professionally, he spends his time at Armstrong Medical, where he's a national sales manager. And in addition, he has been a paid firefighter, paramedic for 32 years in the department, in the area where he grew up. He's always valued giving back to the community. He served as a Cub Master for his son's Cub Scout and a certified American Heart Association CPR first aid instructor. John was adopted as an infant through the Catholic Charities of Detroit, Michigan by John and Mary Figel. He grew up as one of 4 children, each of them adopted by different families. Later in life, he found his biological parents in his late 40s and 50s. It has been an incredible, meaningful experience, allowing him to build relationships not only with them, but with their extended families. The journey has deepened his understanding of nature versus nurture. That's right. And how both shape us and who we ultimately will become. I got through it there, John.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Right. No,
Thank you
always
so
great
much.
to see you.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you letting me share my story too.
Yes. So let's get into it. Because this is an interesting story, because I think that's interesting, right? Like, you did this later in life.
Right.
And so my first question was, let's just take a step back and tell me, what made you want to do this in the first place, right? This is about health, this is about wellness, and I'm sure there's so many emotions that come along with doing this. So what made you want to do this in the first place?
Right. Well, when you mention health and wellness, you talk about mental health and physical health. Back when I was younger, I think my parents must have told me at a very early age that I was adopted, because I don't ever remember like this thing being dropped on me, right? I always knew that I was adopted. So they must have picked the right time to do this, to let us know. The other thing that made things a little bit easier was myself and my 3 other siblings were all adopted from different parents. So it wasn't a situation where they were natural, my siblings were natural, and I was adopted. We were all adopted. I never really thought much about it. Every once in a while, I would like bring it up like I was adopted, and I never really thought about it too much. But you know, as you get older and you get married, and as you get older and start having issues, physical issues and stuff, one of the questions that gets brought up is, you know, do you have a history of this in your family?
Right.
And I started to really try to figure out how important it was to know that. And when I was younger, it wasn't as important. Now, my parents, when I was adopted, they were given non-identifying information from the family. Okay. And my mom had, and I was trying to find them, has notes where she wrote down all the physical things that they had, the history, the physical history and stuff, health history. So I had these little like backs of envelopes and stuff that my mom wrote all the stuff on. So I had a lot of non-identifying information and health information, but you have to remember that information was from back then when I was adopted. So my birth mother was 16, 17, my birth father was 17. And so, I mean, how much history is that really? And so, as I got older, right in 1991, I decided, that's right after we got married and we had our first child, I said, I'd like to know a little bit more, at least health information. Yeah. So back then, the rule was that in the state of Michigan, it wasn't that easy to find your birth parents, but you could get more health information that might be up to date. I was hoping I'd get more. So I wrote Catholic Charities. I had to fill out some forms. I kept all the forms looking for that information. And they came back and gave me pretty much the same stuff they already had. They didn't have any updated information. And so then I kind of let it pass for a while, and I didn't think much of it. And then I decided, my sister found her birth mother, and she had a great experience with that when she found her birth mother. And I started thinking about it too, and I thought, well, this is something I'm more and more interested in. My oldest son was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and that, kind of forced the issue a little bit more too. So in 2011, the end of 2011, I wrote Catholic Charities, and the laws had changed. So they put me in touch with a court intermediary. And this court intermediary, I had to pay him a couple $100 to do research. And it took him a couple months. And he finally came back and said, I found your birth mother, right? And so that really started to sink in then. I found your birth mother. I felt now I'm going to be able to learn a little bit more. But you get nervous, right?
I was going to say, were you like, when you got that back and you opened letter or however you got it, were you like?
He called me.
Oh, he called
says,
you.
John, this is Daryl. I found your birth mother. I was like, I stopped me in my tracks. I was like, wow, this is crazy. I'm really going through with this.
Yes.
And so for me, I was a little bit nervous, and I thought, okay, now what do we do? He said, well, what's going to happen now is you both have to agree to want to meet each other. And so I had to write a letter.
Yeah, this is going into the process, because that was my next question about the process of now.
okay.
Now, in case someone else is thinking about this, like, how did you even do this?
Oh, right. So at the time, it was very exciting, and I went through the process that you had to go through. If you want me to share that process now with you,
yeah, just share the process.
So I had to write a letter,
Okay.
and she had to write a letter, and we had to send pictures, but they had to be non-identifying information, right? You couldn't, let them know who you were exactly until we both agreed.
And what is, like, when you say non-identifying information, like?
My name, my address. She couldn't know who I was. She could know about me.
Okay.
She could know. How many kids I have.
Okay.
But I couldn't give her my last name or my address or things like that.
Or not even your first name.
She had my first name. Yeah, it was my first name. So the letter I wrote. First of all, my handwriting's awful.
Yeah. So
the letter I wrote.
That's amazing.
Was
right?
this letter? It wasn't very
How's the
long.
letter?
But it was a typed letter because I know she wouldn't be able to read my handwriting.
That's amazing.
But what really struck me and really meant a lot to me is her letter to me. A beautifully handwritten letter, okay?
Yeah.
The handwriting struck me, okay? But her words struck me. And so once we exchanged this information, these letters, then we both had to agree. So then I got the call from him and said, okay, she's agreed to meet with you. And I said, this is fantastic. I said, he goes, I'll give you her phone number, and then you can reach out to her. That's how we prefer to do it. And I said, okay. And I thought about this, with an adoption or with finding your birth family, there's a lot of emotion. I had a lot of emotion, right? But it's not just about me, right? So there's also, I have to realize I have to be cognizant of her emotions too. I can't just be selfish and just worry about what I want to know. So I wanted to be careful. But I also know that, my other family members who had found some of their birth parents, it didn't go as well. And so I cleverly set the time to be a time that I was at work. And so that I knew if it wasn't going well, I could say, I have to go into a meeting. I have to do that. So I called her, and I called her from work. But what was unusual was when I called her from work, she saw a business line coming through, and she answers the phone. Yeah, what do you want? She thought it was a sales call. I said, this is John Figel.
And it was kind of.
Yeah. She was so ecstatic, right?
Yes.
She was so ecstatic, and she just, as soon as she saw it was me, she goes, I thought you were a sales call. So what happened was, all of a sudden now I'm realizing she's excited, really excited.
And it's positive. It's going to be you feel like, okay, I know this is going to be a positive experience.
I right away knew, I took the pressure off right away. That broke the ice. And then she just rambled on. She's telling me everything about her family.
And for those who might be listening to this podcast, by the way, you got to check it out on YouTube because John's showing some of this information. So if you're just listening on the podcast, check out YouTube to see some of the things John is showing us.
But this is a notepad. I spent an hour at the office writing things down. She gave me everything about herself. She told me her family.
Yeah.
She told me about her grandkids. She told me she just was going, I just let her talk.
Yeah.
She was so excited.
She was probably so relieved too.
Well,
you know,
right, you're exactly right.
She was probably like, the pressure is off of me, and here you are. You know, that was probably so much for her back then.
It was a lot for her, and you never know what they're thinking, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of times what happens is the unknown is, did she care about me? What was, you know,
Yeah.
and I, you know, I went for therapy for my anxiety over the years, and one of the things the therapist had told me was that kids of adoption carry a lot of anxiety, right? They carry a lot of anxiety, even if it's subconscious anxiety. And so when I read her letter, one of the things that struck me was she said that, you know, she really didn't want to give me up, but her parents made her give me up, and that she thought about me every day, every day. And so what that told me was she loved me, right? That she loved me and that she cared about me. So from a mental health standpoint, that meant a lot for me, right? And the fact that she wanted to share all this information with me, you know. So this was really sort of the best case scenario you can have under the circumstances.
Do you think, this wasn't a question, but that I, you know, had for you, but do you think it's relieved some of your anxiety? Just
well, it absolutely
general?
relieved some of my anxiety. You know, I was still going through it at the time, because then I was going through this anxiety of meeting her family. How do I get to know her family? I wanted to be respectful, so I wanted her to let them know first that I'd be calling. And so it did draw some relief. And the one thing that I found from her family, because I'm really good friends with her family now, and what I found from her family is her whole demeanor changed. She had a rough life, right? She had been married several times. She, you know, had a lot of struggles. She, you know, went through divorces. She was, you know, divorced at the time. She was single. But they saw a noticeable difference in her whole demeanor when we found each other. Because I think I talk about both parties' emotions, right? So you got, you know, my emotions, but her emotions, where she lived her whole life regretting maybe what happened, what she did, that I went up for adoption, what happened to me. So as she found out all this information about, like, I was doing well, I was put into a good family, I didn't resent her. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can and can't imagine, you know? Now, my other question was, what about your parents that adopted you? What was their emotion?
That's a great question.
You know?
And so that's another emotion I had to worry about. My adoptive parents, my parents, right? As a matter of fact, I made the decision that I called Teresa, my birth mom, right? But my adoptive parents are my parents. But that was always worried, but both of them had passed already. And so I think that's another thing that allowed me to move forward, because I felt that it might be a little awkward, you know, trying to, you know, deal with how they would felt about it. So that's a good question. And that's something that anybody that's, you know, seeking out their birth parents, their biological parents, always keep in mind that you have your emotions to worry about, but then you need to still worry about your adoptive parents' emotions. But then the other issue that I have is, what are the other family members thinking? Do they even know about me? Right? And how would that, am I going to put her in an awkward position, you know? And the same thing with my birth father. What was awkward about my birth father is we had to know about each other before we knew anything specific about each other. We both had to agree. Well, I had his name, so for me, another 4 years later, I hesitated because I was worried that he would be married and she knew nothing about me, right? And I knew he knew about me because he ran away with her, but I knew he knew about me. So it wasn't like, hey, you're my dad. But as I was telling you earlier, I think he kind of put that aside and really thought maybe he was told it was somebody else's. So when I first approached him on Facebook, it was like, no, it's a long story, but ask her about this guy. And I said, Mitch, I said, you have to look at your Facebook picture.
Yeah.
And look at mine, and I said, and so I don't know how well you'll be able to see this, but
Yeah, twinsies.
yeah, so what happened was, what forced me really to look for him more is this Father's Day. I'm with my family at the ale house in the
Okay.
city, and my daughter kept saying, "Do you want to find your birthright? You ever thought about looking for him?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I know his name." She goes, "Okay, what's his name?" So she picks up the phone.
Oh, yeah,
She
kid.
does this. And then she goes, "Yeah, I found him." I go, "Oh, really? How are you sure?" And she turns the picture to the whole family.
Yeah.
And we all kind of looked at it and said, "Oh, yeah, it's definitely him." So
So that's good too. So again, guys, if you're listening to the podcast, make sure you go check out the YouTube episode because John's got a lot of things here that he's showing us that you probably can't see from the
Right.
radio, but you can see on the YouTube. So that's good to know too that
Right.
your kids and your family were very positive about this.
yes.
They were very
They encouraged me.
encouraging,
They encouraged
yeah,
me,
to
yes.
go through
They
this,
wanted
right?
me to do it. They were fascinated.
Because it opens up a whole new family for them too.
Right. And my oldest son, when I found out more history on my birth father, he did a bunch of research after that. He wanted to know even more, right? He wanted to know even more. So
But your father wasn't as like he was trying to figure it out still. Right? You said.
I think this, when I reached out to him via Facebook Messenger, I had him look at the picture on Facebook. He knew he ran away with it. He knew, but I think he just had shut it down. And so then I think he got it, right?
Yeah.
He goes, "Oh, I could take a DNA test." And I said, "Well, I wouldn't worry about it." I said, "I'm on Ancestry.com." And then a couple weeks after, I connected to one of his relatives. So I called him up that day. I connected with the relative. I said, "It's a done deal.
Okay.
You're my dad, right? It's the way it is."
You're like, hello.
And then he goes, "Well, that's all right, because I've already been showing your picture around the bar to everybody." And
Yeah.
now he's walking around showing everybody his son. Because he only had one other daughter.
Okay.
Right? So I have a half
So
sibling.
you were his son, only son.
I was the only son that he had, right. My birth mother had two other children, a daughter and a son. So I have half siblings.
Okay.
I've connected with all of them.
Yeah, you were showing me earlier there. It sounds like and you said even in your bio, you've connected with literally your extended family.
Right.
So not just the immediate mom
Right.
and dad, but
Right.
their brothers and sisters, your uncles,
Right.
their kids, weddings.
Right. And so for me, it changed my life
Yeah.
from a mental standpoint, an emotional standpoint. It changed her life considerably. I mean, the first day we met, we drove down that Memorial Day, 2012, and I've never seen her face to face. We get to her senior living place, and I'm with my wife and my two sons. And I said, "We're here." We picked up some flowers. I go up the elevator at the place. The door opens up. She's standing there. She puts her hand on my face. She doesn't say anything else. She said, "I haven't touched this face in 48 years. My wife starts crying. I start crying. She said, "The nuns felt I was mature enough to hold you before I had given you up for adoption." And after that, we just spent the whole day with her, really kind of
Yeah.
sharing and taking pictures. And like, for example, this is her and I in her, of course, you can't see it on the audio, but her and I, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
It's her and I, first time together in her apartment or whatever it was. So I met her in 2012, and then I, through the Facebook Messenger, met Mitch in 2016. I never really saw him. He was supposed to come out for my son's wedding, but he got sick, and his illness, it was kind of going downhill. But then when he finally passed, I actually went to his memorial at his cousin's house. And it was a nice size house, a beautiful house. And there was all these pictures set up there. Not everybody there knew who I was
Okay.
or that I even existed.
Oh.
And they're all staring at me like, well, this guy looks really familiar.
That was one of my questions. Like, what are some of the similarities, the shocking similarities, and maybe the shocking differences,
Well-
where you were like, oh, okay, because you said, nurture versus nature, right? Some stuff you just got.
Well, yeah. So an example of nature versus nurture. I was raised by these parents my whole life, my adoptive parents. So the day we met Mitch for the first time in Michigan, we met him. We made arrangements to meet at a restaurant. So I'm obsessed I have a little OCD about being on time and early for everything. So we show up to the restaurant and we go to the front and the hostess. I said, well, we're going to meet somebody here. He'll probably be here in a little bit. And we're talking, and my son looks in, and there he is, already seated at a table, kind of waving, right?
He's like,
he was early.
Yeah, and
okay.
you're like, that's me.
It's me, right?
Yeah.
So he was early. So Debbie goes, I cannot believe this. So we go in, we sit down, we hit it off right away. I had a black polo on, he had a black polo on. He had jeans on, I had my jeans on. We both had the same sarcastic sense of humor, joking around, and with the same laugh.
Yeah. And your laugh is distinguishable.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
it's distinguishable.
Yeah. If you, I don't know if we were going to hear him laugh, but it's
that laugh. That's my laugh.
That laugh.
So he had the same laugh. My wife was just like, oh my, and she looked at his hands. She goes, his hands are like your hands, and his whole attitude and sense of humor and everything was the same.
So when both of you guys laughed, back to the laugh, were you guys both like did you hear each
we
other?
laughed about laughing.
Yeah,
we laughed at the laugh. I mean, it was the
yeah.
craziest thing.
Yeah.
And so, but when I went to his memorial, people kept staring at me because I look like him. And so then a lot of those people didn't even know who I was. And as soon as they heard who I was, people just came to me, had a ton of questions, and it was just a great experience. So I could say that the overall experience was good. Now, what it does though is, both my parents had passed. So you have your adoptive parents, they're my parents. You watch them go through their sufferings and their issues and stuff, and they had a lot of health issues, and then they pass, right? And then you kind of go to the next level of your life, and well, now I'm introduced to new parents.
You're starting over, kind of.
I'm starting over again. So now I have these parents of mine that are aging, right? And dealing with health issues, and I'm dealing with the emotions of them going through their health issues and subsequently passing away, and so I guess I got a little bit of a rerun on the process, but it's like I said, it's been a great experience. I think it helped me from a mental health standpoint. It definitely helped her from a mental health standpoint. It helped me better identify, health issues. My birth father, one time when I was going through anxiety and being treated for anxiety, I called my birth father up. I said, have you ever been on antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications? He goes, yeah, I've been on 10 milligrams of Ativan for years. And I said, I joked to him, I said, thanks for the anxiety.
Yeah.
And he said, well, somebody called you after 48 years and said he was your son. I think you'd be a little anxious too, That's the kind of sense of humor that he had. That's the kind of sense of humor he had. So he had a good sense of humor. He told it like it was. It's kind of the way I try to do it. I think I have a better filter than he had, but
The filter. It matured.
I got a little better filter and stuff like that. So over the years, and what's come up recently regarding my adoption that's been really enlightening too is my dad he worked for Bell and Howell. They made 8mm films.
Okay.
And he had the old 8mm films. My son transferred them to digital, and I have 8mm footage of my parents leaving the house that they lived in Livonia, right? Going to the adoption center with Catholic Charities, and then just to give you an idea, and you'll see it if you look online, but I have pictures of the nuns handing me over in a blue blanket, and then they left. That's how it went. You went.
That's just traumatic.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. Your dad, I know that must have been tough. I'm a woman, so I only can imagine from that perspective.
Right.
But I can't imagine her, like you said, when she saw you that first time after 48 years, and then when he knew that it's just, I can't put my head around it,
Right. 48 years, it was a little bit longer for him.
And just the way it had to be done, too. Gosh, like she held you that one time, and then
that's how they did it.
And
back
I know
then.
that's how it probably maybe still.
And nobody
is done.
talked about it. Nobody talked about it. You didn't talk about it with
Yeah.
your family. A lot of people find out by accident that they were adopted or that
Yeah.
they have siblings out there because they do this ancestry now. And all of a sudden you're connecting with somebody you don't even know.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people finding out about these added siblings,
Yeah.
At a later date. But the only thing that I would say,
Yeah, what would you tell somebody? Because I'm sure there's people out there that might be listening that they're either thinking about it, they're in the middle of it,
Right.
or maybe don't even want to do it at all, but maybe,
Right.
or I don't know.
you got to ask your reasons why
Yeah.
you don't want to do it. It might be purely out of fear. Maybe you just plain don't want to do it.
Yeah.
People are putting pressure on you, but some people don't want to do it because they're afraid what they're going to find out,
Yeah.
right? But if the only thing I would say is always keep in mind, it's your emotions, right? It could be your adoptive parents' emotions. How would they feel
And
about
others.
it? And of course, so I know somebody that found the birth mother and had a great relationship.
Mm-hmm.
The birth father didn't even know she existed. Well, she found out about the birth father, and she tried to reach out to him, never heard back, so she went and saw him. Well, the problem is
Ooh, that's a shock.
his wife didn't know anything
Yeah.
about her, right? He didn't know anything
Yeah.
about her. So you just have to keep in mind,
And I found out that her
that
brother-
there's going to be a lot of, but here's the thing today, with adoption,
So when I reached out to him,
there's
met
a
him
lot
for
of
lunch
people
at a
finding your
restaurant.
parents. It's been very well known. People don't hide it. So it's really no surprise anymore, right? And so I think in the long run, I'm glad I found mine before they passed. My one sister found her birth mom and dad. They were married, and they had additional kids after the adoption.
Oh, so it was the same-
So she had
it was-
full siblings.
And it was the same birth mom.
Same
and they had
parents.
just earlier in their lives
They,
decided.
right,
Yeah.
but then he had passed away, and then so I'm glad I was able to see them
Yeah.
before they both passed, and I was glad I was able to connect with the family, and it just having, and they're all positive people. Everybody that I've met, her family, his family, are all people that I probably need in my life anyhow, and it needed to happen because they contributed to my enjoyment and happiness in my life.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to ask. The final question per se is just how has that really just deepened your understanding of you, right? How has it deepened your understanding of you as you are today? Like most of us who may listen or watch probably know you just as a adult, right? Now you, right? And so how has that deepened understanding of you and John and all the things,
Well, because of a lot of the traits that your biological parents pass on to you, some of the stuff made more sense to me.
Yeah.
They both had mental health issues. Both my birth parents had mental health issues, anxieties especially. So then it kind of clicked a little bit. Like, okay, now I know where it came from, right? Combination of knowing I was adopted and it being predisposed to having these anxieties, and so I think that helped me out quite a bit.
Okay.
And so, my physical health, some of the things that I have, my birth mother had osteoarthritis. I have osteoarthritis. So, but now there's things that they have that I know that, okay, if something happens, I know why I have it because, I've kind of inherited this type of thing. So it's helped me out definitely from a mental health standpoint, for sure. I know it helped her out immensely from a mental health standpoint. So I think it worked. But I always would say that, go into it, don't go into it with this, rainbows and, and things that everything's going to be great. Understand that there could be some things that do come up that you probably didn't want or didn't expect.
That's the scary side of it, right?
But here's the thing, that issue, whatever you find out about, has always existed, right? And so sometimes it's good to know that too.
Yeah.
Right? It's good to know that too. I think
It's good to maybe get closure either way, right? Like, or closure, if you want to call it that. I don't know if you want to call it closure, but if they don't, receive you as you wanted to, it's good to know that too. You reached out, you tried.
Exactly, because
know.
otherwise your mind's constantly wondering. You don't know which way it goes. Now you know, right? Now you know. And so I would say that, a lot can come out of it either way for you.
And so now that you know them and you know your extended family, what are some of the things, do you guys have anything planned, like, the next time you're going to see each other, planned events? You're showing me these pictures of the extended relatives, so you're going to keep in contact with them. So this is the amazing side of the story.
So we're part of their life, so every time I go to Michigan, my son Tommy moved to Michigan and got married. They have a house in Michigan. And so we were up there last time. We invited them to events. She came to my aunt, my birth mom's aunt came to the housewarming. They came out for my son's daughter's wedding. I've gone to my one uncle lives in North Carolina, her brother. I've gone to his birthday parties, christenings. And so really, we're part of all each other's lives, right? And every Mother's Day and Father's Day, everybody has the text messages that go out, and so they're family, right? And my adoptive parents were my parents, right? But I still consider the biological family my family as well, right? There's a lot we are connected with from a genetic standpoint. And right now, frankly, emotional standpoint too. So it's been
and your kids too.
And my kids are
they have new cousins and new uncles.
They have cousins, uncles. Like I said, my kids have been researching. They're very invested into knowing more about that part of the family. And here's the thing: my birth mother gave me the gift of adoption, right? Now she might not wanted to do it, but at the time it might not have been the best thing for me. And so, my path went this direction, right? And it went well for me. Who knows what, but that's like that in life anyhow, whether you're adopted or not adopted. There's things that change the direction of your life. And I'm here today, she gave me up for adoption and I got into a good family and I was able to, then I found my wife and I've had my good family. So it's all good. It's all good.
Thank you so much for sharing. I have one last surprise question that every guest gets.
All right.
Okay. Now, you may know this about me because you know it from the gym. But I have these little stray cats in my backyard.
Okay.
So, and they say curiosity in the cats.
Yes.
So wrapping it up, John, what are you curious about? It can be anything. This is the last question everybody gets. What are you curious about? It's a surprise question, surprise. And you have a lot of curiosity so what are you curious about?
I don't know if there's much more curious. The only thing I'm curious about is about you personally.
About anything in life. It can be, some people have said, what's on the other side of the moon?
What's on the other side of the moon? Well, the only thing I'm curious about is someday I plan on retiring. And when am I going to give it up? I am dedicated. I've been at this company 37 years, right? I feel very committed to the company. I feel it's part of my family. Will I be able to make that next step to separate? So when I left the fire department, I was part-time paid-on-call fireman for 32 years. I thought it'd be easy. I called to tell my chief. I couldn't even get it out. She thought there was a bad connection on the phone. So anyhow, the next phase of my life, which would probably be retirement phase, I'm just curious when that's going to be and how it's going to be for me. Am I so connected, or am I going to be able to survive? Right?
I think you're going to be able to survive, but I think you'll still be connected. So both, yes, right. A, B, and C. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. Awesome. I look forward to hearing more about it because I know there's going to be more to come. It's it's exciting, and I'm glad that you had a positive experience. And I hope that anyone listening out there that decides to do this has a positive experience as well. But like John said, the good thing is you
resolve a lot of unanswered questions. It helps you. It does help you a lot.
Unanswered questions and helps you a lot. So we're going to wrap up. This is the Terran Lamp Show. Thank you so much for joining me. This show is about you. This show is for you. I would love to see you here on the show. If you have a story, I would love to hear about it. If you know someone who has a story, I would love to hear about that too. Again, I am your host, Terran Lamp. Be sure you're checking us out on social at I am Terran L. On TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram, on all the things. And again, we want to thank John so much for joining us. This is the Terran Lamp Show. Thank you, everyone. Be good to yourself and each other. Bye-bye.